I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I don't see any neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. And if you look around, you can say, I don't see a neutral log because my thoughts about logs are not neutral. I don't see a neutral rock because my thoughts about rocks are not neutral. I don't see neutral smoke because my thoughts about smoke is not neutral. I don't see neutral, whatever, you fill in the blank, because my blank is not neutral. I don't see a neutral whatever because my thoughts about whatever not neutral. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about not neutral. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today out here on this cold, snowy January the 17th of 2024 day. It's a Wednesday, and we're ready for Lesson 17. I'm forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, Miracle Willie, and we're ready for, like I said, Lesson 17. And it looks like my little bookmark came out. I've been having quite a time. One of the things I learn when it snows and you still have outside things to do, put yourself in a low gear. Don't plan on getting as much done. And you're usually fine then. Everything takes a little bit longer, and you got to stop and warm up often. I'll reach over here and put my hand on the fire, and I've got a little small heater on my right side just for my right hand. Anyway, here we go. I have no neutral thoughts. The idea for today is a beginning step. Oh no, this is yesterday's, excuse me. Today's. I see no neutral things. This idea is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. That you think that, well, something happened, so now I've got to figure out what to do about it. Instead of realizing that your thoughts is what made what came to you. Remember, we learned yesterday, or we're gonna hear about again today, that what we're learning is that our thoughts are the maker of everything that happens in time and space is a result of this powerful coming together of choice or thought and belief. Okay, so it is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. If it were not so, perception would have no cause, and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. What an amazing proof he gives us. I mean, that can be validated. It certainly can by me. As far as I'm concerned, that's a scientific validation of what he's trying to say. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think, that the thought comes first, and that the world that we see is made up by our thoughts. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. And we'll come back and read that. Let's go look at the text. I've been liking doing that. Read the first little bit, take a pause, and then we'll go look at the text again. Okay, and we're ready in chapter 2, the separation and the atonement. And we're ready for Roman numeral 7, cause and effect. Just exactly what we're talking about. You may still complain about fear, but you nevertheless persist in making yourself fearful. I've already indicated that you cannot ask me to release you from fear. I know it does not exist, but you do not. If I intervene between your thoughts and their results, I would be tampering with a basic law of cause and effect. The most fundamental law there is. Catch that. If I intervene between your thoughts and their results, I would be tampering with a basic law of cause and effect. The most fundamental law there is. Can you imagine that? The most fundamental law there is. Cause and effect. Our thoughts, cause and effect. I would hardly help you if I depreciated the power of your own thinking. This would be in direct opposition to the purpose of this course. It is much more helpful to remind you that you do not guard your thoughts carefully enough. You may feel at this point it would take a miracle to enable you to do this, which is perfectly true. I just love Jesus' sense of humor. But it's always completely true. All his humor is completely true. You are not used to miracle-minded thinking, but you can be trained to think that way. All miracle workers need that kind of training, and that's what we're learning together. Paragraph 2, I can let you leave your mind unguarded. I cannot let you leave your mind unguarded, or you will not be able to help me. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought in order to avoid miscreation. Otherwise, a miracle will be necessary to set the mind itself straight, a circular process that would not foster the time collapse for which the miracle was intended. The miracle worker must have genuine respect for true cause and effect as a necessary condition for the miracle to occur. Paragraph 3, both miracles and fear come from thoughts. So both love and fear come from thoughts. If you are not free to choose one, you would also not be free to choose the other. By choosing the miracle, you have rejected fear, if only temporarily. You have been fearful of everyone and everything. You are afraid of God, of me, and of yourself. You have misperceived and miscreated us, and believe in what you have made. You would not have done this if you were not afraid of your own thoughts. The fearful must miscreate, because they misperceive creation. When you miscreate, you are in pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real expediter, though only temporarily. Actually, cause, and that's spelled with a capital C, and in quotes, actually, cause is a term properly belonging to God, and his capital E for effect, also in quotes, is his Son. Let me read that again now. Actually, cause is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect is us, his Son. All that he created. All that he created, not what we create with miscreation. This entails a set of cause and effect relationships totally different from those you introduce into miscreation. The fundamental conflict in this world, then, is between creation and miscreation. Between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, miscreation, and all love in the first, creation. Again, on those two sentences. The fundamental conflict in this world, then, is between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, and all love in the first. The conflict is therefore one between love and fear. 4. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and you believe in it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Again on that sentence. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. But you believe in that power of what does not exist. Paragraph 5. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. Let me tend to my fire just a minute here. My little teepee fell over, which is okay, but I got to throw a little wood on it. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. What you believe is true for you. What you believe is true for you. Yeah, that's kind of common. That's common knowledge, isn't it? What's true for you, he says, what you believe is true for you. In this sense, the separation has occurred because you believed you were separated from God. And to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. However, to concentrate on error is only a further error. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there is a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. Can we do that? Realize that we've made a miscreation because we're not happy, we're painful. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there is a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. This establishes a state of mind in which the atonement can be accepted without delay. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees, because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, and he's going to quote John 3:16, the statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. So let's look at that again now. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees, because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, "God so loved the world that he gave to his only begotten Son," or gave, let me just read the way he said. The statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. It should, and he's not saying that the way that it's quoted is not correct. He's just saying that there's another way which, with a slight modification, that same passage is meaningful in this context. Paragraph 6. It should especially be noted that God has only one Son. That's a key idea. A lot of people forget that quote that verse. It should especially be noted that God has only one Son. If all His creations are His sons, everyone must be an integral part of the whole sonship. The sonship in its oneness transcends the sum of its parts. However, this is obscured as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all the parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing in the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the Atonement, or the Atonement, or the interlocking chain of forgiveness. And the last paragraph, 7. I've already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there is usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. The state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been accomplished. We've already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered, and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. Readiness is only the beginning of confidence. You may think this implies that an enormous amount of time is necessary between readiness and mastery. But let me remind you that time and space are under my control. So He can make things in time and space happen perfectly in coordination, so that not just your inner world is in harmony, but everything in the world has been given to you and is in perfect accord with God's will. Isn't that a beautiful way to look at life? Okay, well, let's before we read our workbook for today, what's going on around the world? Well, it's birthday of Guru Gobind Singh Sahib. He was the last of the Sikh gurus. And I found this on xavier.edu /Jesuit resource /online. He was born in 1666 and was until 1708. He was the 10th and last living prophet of the Sikhs. He passed the guruship on to the Sikh scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. That's the Sikh scriptures, the Guru Granth Sahib, and the Sikh community, the Guru Panth. So to each other, the Guru community. I like that. You know, we're all part of God, so we all have the divine inspiration that we can pass amongst ourselves, and they see that in the Sikh community, evidently. Ben Franklin Day. Let's see, and that was he was born on this day in 1706 and lived until 1790. Cable Car Day. It was patented on this day in 1871. Customer Service Day. Ditch New Year Resolution Day. If you've not been doing your New Year's resolution after 2 weeks plus 3 days, it's probably time to say, okay, I guess I better start something else, or ditch the New Year's resolution. If it was worth doing, I'd say just start over and do it again. Don't let failure be a reason not to accomplish what's good for you. Let's see, Hot Buttered Rum Day. International Mentoring Day. And I am so thankful that you've come to listen to me, and maybe I can share something with you that'll help you along your way, like so many have done to help me along mine. And we thank all those mentors in our lives. I'd like to specifically mention my teacher, who made a huge difference in my life in about 1991 and 2, Charlie and his wife Margie Simpkins, farmers here in the Ozarks, who was a follower of Paramahansa Yogananda. and a farmer, a gardener that passed a lot of his knowledge on to me. Thank you, Charlie, my mentor. Judgment Day, of course, we're learning from Course in Miracles that, as a matter of fact, we'll get into a lesson that says, I will judge nothing, or how does it say it? I will judge nothing that occurs. That'll be further in the book, lesson 243, I think it is. But until then, we're learning that we make less judgments and let guidance lead us. Let the feeling of peace, of joy be our guide. Knowing that if we ever do stand before God in any kind of judgment, He's going to say, well, you're innocent. I never saw any guilt in you. Everything was a dream, a nightmare that we want you to wake up from. Kid Inventors Day. I heard my grandpa told me a story about a truck that couldn't get underneath an overpass, and everybody was backed up, and a little kid got out of a car behind, walked up and said, why don't you just let a little air out of the tire? No one had thought of that. Anyway, kids can have thoughts because of their freshness and their open minds, can't they? Museum Selfie Day, National Bootleggers Day, National Hotheads Chili Day, and Pie Day. And then as far as in edible landscaping, let me just tell you about the okay, how do you pronounce that? It's called the Kajacikanor pomegranate. Is a cold, hardy variety with heavy yield, keeps for a long time after picking, self-fertile, zone 7 through 9, but, protected area, prime zone 6. And it is a Punica granatum. And then in our permaculture for beginners, kind of going through that just a little at a time, snails and slugs. If young seedlings are vanishing overnight or large holes are appearing in leaves, the culprit is likely slugs and snails. They're mostly nocturnal. Some birds, frogs, lizards, and rodents are their predators. And our common snails in this area are, in general, the phylum is mollusca. The class is gastropoda. And their family is the Helicidae family. And the snails and slugs specifically are generally gastropods. The common Ozark garden slug is the Aryan hortensis. So there you go. And we're gonna keep our word for peace. There's so much going on in the world. I kind of do these lessons outside just with the idea of trying to, kind of have solidarity with the homeless in a sense, and the beauty of nature. It's the great temple outdoors. I have no neutral thoughts, and so the word for peace I just want to get is Salaam, the Arabic word. So many nations that speak Arabic. I have no neutral thoughts. The idea for today is a beginning step into. I did that again. That was yesterday's. I see no neutral things. This idea is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. In applying today's idea, say to yourself with eyes open, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. So with your eyes open, say, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Then look about you, resting your glance on each thing you note long enough to say, I do not see a neutral whatever, snowflake, because my thoughts about snowflakes are not neutral. Or I do not see a neutral briar because my thoughts about briars are not neutral. For example, you might say I do not see a neutral wall because my thoughts about walls are not neutral. I do not see a neutral body because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. As usual, it is essential to make no distinction between what you believe to be animate or inanimate, pleasant or unpleasant. Regardless of what you may believe, you do not see anything that is really alive or really joyous. That is because you are unaware as yet of any thought that is really true and therefore really happy. 3 or 4 specific practice periods are recommended, and no less than 3 are required for maximum benefit. Even if you experience resistance, however, if you do, the length of the practice period may be reduced to less than a minute or so that is otherwise recommended. So if you are having trouble, you don't have to do it for the minute that's recommended. And he's only asking us to do this a few times a day for what's he say, for 3 to 5 minutes. So let me encourage you to try for 5 today, and for 1 minute each, maybe a little longer if you want, and depending on where you're at in your personal growth. A lot of people pick me up on this when you've already made a lot of progress, and I'd encourage you to keep your meditation up. Even though he's only requiring us to do 3 for 1 minute or even less. If you're used to meditating, go ahead and go into your lengthy meditation twice a day afterwards anyway. I see no neutral things. That's good. Let's get this right. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I don't see neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I don't see a neutral cedar because my thoughts about cedars are not neutral. I don't see a neutral smoke because my thoughts about smoke is not neutral. I don't see neutral snow because my thoughts about snow are not neutral. I don't see a neutral rock because my thoughts about rocks are not neutral. You all do it. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. One more time. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. I don't see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Till tomorrow, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Salaam.